Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's November 24th, 2023. It's below freezing out here. I think it's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, but the winds have been horrible. And today's the day that I want to hook up the fully automatic subframe onto the Kubota Grand L6060. And I'm standing here by the aviary right now because I'm just trying to talk so that you can hear me without the wind. The wind is going to be bad on this video, so I apologize for that, but I've got to hook it up today. When Thea's gone to the post office right now to drop off books for shipping out, and she's going to help me with the alignment. The place where I think is a good resource for looking at this equipment, this subframe, which is a Kubota, I believe it's an L4554 fully automatic subframe that goes on the base of the Kubota tractor. And this is a Grand L6060. We call it Optimus Maximus. There's a couple of things in Neil Messick's video, and so it's at Messick's, I think it's messicks.com. Neil does lots of fantastic videos about the equipment that he sells there. And he has a good video for attaching this subframe. However, there's a couple of things that I'm going to point out that that I'm going to say are different. One, the electric connection. Don't do that when he says to hook it up after the hydraulics. Don't do it then. And the second thing is, on my Grand L6060, the mid-mount PTO, which drives the snowblower attachment or a broom or a flail mower, that mid-mount PTO hangs down low enough that I actually have to drop the subframe down off of its storage stand. And I'll show that now, but I wanted to come over here where you can at least hear me in the first part. So I'm going to go over to Optimus now, and we'll take a look at things. So this is Optimus here, Optimus Maximus. One of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down here where my drawbar is. So here's a drawbar in the back of the unit, and this is where we will be, we use the drawbar to hook onto the back of the subframe. So bear with me one second there. I can't do these two things at the same time. Well, let's see, can I raise that up? I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Handy dandy leather tool out here. Okay, I guess I have to come down there to actually see what I'm doing. At least it's not snowing right now. Come on, Kelly. Here we go. So I pull that pin out and then pull the drawbar back. Hopefully you could see that. Just going to set the pin in here for right now. It will fit in one of these holes. Yeah. And it's much easier with two people. So when Thea gets back, she'll push this in, potentially help line me up. Okay, let me grab this. Oh, dang it. Okay. Apologize for all the commotion, just trying to get my tool back in my pocket. My hands are frozen here. So here is the subframe assembly. This is amazing, an absolutely fantastic piece of equipment. while it's detached, going through and making sure you're greasing all the grease zerks here. So the universal joints here, each one of the universal joints, the attachment here, each one of these are all need to be greased all the way up down in here. Even down here, there's a grease zerk here for the bearings here. Here and here. I think those are the main ones right now. The hydraulic hoses. So I haven't had an O-ring go bad, so there's 5 different hydraulic hookups that we've got on this unit. There's one electric hookup. In Neil's video, he shows that as soon as he gets the hydraulic lines hooked up, he attaches the electric pin, the electric coupler here. Don't do that until hook this up after the subframe is mounted on the back and on the front. So this is where the front pins will go, very large pins here. Mid-mount pins go right here. And this is a place that the drawbar will slide underneath here and right up through this hole right here. The other thing that in Neil's video, this is a storage stand here. Let me see if I can get this thing to go up some. So there's a storage stand there. This is the locking mechanism to flip it up. I've got to drop that down because the height of this rear mount is too high. It will damage the mid-mount PTO. So I got to drop this down until I drive over it and get past the mid-mount PTO. Then I put it back up on the stand so that everything comes into alignment. So I hope that makes sense. So this is the L40, this automatic subframe here is the L4554 fully automatic subframe. This is super fantastic because once you hook up the subframe, every implement that you hook onto this, I only have the snowblower, you can just drive up to it, hit a button inside the cab, it'll hook up the electronics, the drive shaft, and the PTO. It does it all automatically. So that's fantastic. That's a quick and easy coupler from inside the cab. That was a big selling point for me. If it doesn't work, so there's a couple of things that could go wrong. If the hydraulic lines aren't connected correctly, so these are the hydraulic lines for my front end loader right here. This is for the third function right here. These are the ones for the subframe assembly, and this is the excess hydraulic fluid that goes back to the main reservoir before the pump. So if these aren't labeled correctly, you could have trouble with your hydraulics. Another thing I would say is an issue that I had is when I was first using this, so going up and down was no problem. Changing the angle, the direction of the chute here, so I can swing it both ways, is one set of hydraulics, and changing the height of the discharge by this shaft right here. So this hydraulic shaft here turns the chute in the direction you want it to go. This one changes the angle, whether you're going to shoot it down close to you or shoot it farther away. And so if you wanted to go to the right or left, you're going to be using this. But one of the things, if you go this way, it will turn the discharge chute to the left. You go this way, it won't do anything until you get all the way into detent. You have to really shove it way over for that hydraulic system to work. This is a switch that changes between the two changing the angle up and down and the swivel of the chute itself. So having these hydraulic lines hooked up appropriately to these ones, so if they didn't do your color coding correctly, that would be an issue. There's a whole bunch of electromagnetic sensors on this unit. There's several of them on here. If one of those isn't making a good contact, that could create quite a problem with the hydraulics functioning, because it isn't getting the signal for the hydraulics to work. So the electromagnetic contacts and having the hydraulic hoses hooked up correctly, those are really important. So that's all I'm going to say for right now. We removed the pin from the drawbar in the back, which will hook on to this base part right there. And I'm going to use my bar to drop the assembly down to the ground so that I can drive over it. And I'll try and set up a camera so we can see this as well. So once Steve gets back, we'll give this a shot. Here we go. Okay, I just got done measuring the height of the mid-mount PTO, and I'll show you that in just a second. But what I ended up deciding what to do, easier on my back, is I went ahead and put the hydraulic jack underneath the subframe up here. I'll have to adjust this in a little while. I release the level of the floor stand, so that's no longer standing there. There's the floor stand there. So if I pull this back, it can go down. Hopefully you can see that'll go down. And then we can have it go back up and lock in. With this down on two 2x4s, this measures 3.5 inches, 11.5 inches above ground level. And I'll show you here. All right, and here's the base. This is a mid-mount PTO right here, and so that's 12 inches right there. So I should be clear to drive up over it and then put the stand back up. So that should work. And I've already gone ahead back there and pulled the drawbar back so that that can fit into the drawbar. Excuse me. The drawbar, come on, gimbal. All right, let's see if we can get that wrong way. The drawbar should be able to fit right up into this slot right in here. So that's what it should do. Sorry that's on an angle. Should fit right up in through this slot here. But we're in good shape. Because the hydraulics are going to go under the front wheel, I've laid them down alongside of the subframe assembly, so I can drive right up over it. They'll come up behind the front axle, and they'll get attached right over here in a few minutes when Thea gets back. So there we are. We're set. Okay, so I'm going to try and narrate through this. So it did take me a while. It's freezing cold out here. So two things, besides trying to get the front pins lined up perfectly, where the drawbar attaches to the back of the subframe is also critically important. So it took me a couple of times to get things lined up and set here, and I still see that it isn't quite right. So you'll see again, I end up backing up. Thea and I are discussing how to direct me to line things up. So now you can see I'm going back, and I get things lined up back here in the back for the drawbar to be able to hook up. So that's good. Once I get the tractor positioned correctly, then I go ahead, jack up the jack stand, and put down the storage stand the way it's supposed to be. The reason I moved that before was so that I could avoid damaging the mid-mount PTO shaft, the mid-mount PTO on the tractor. Now I'm having difficulty hooking up the hoses, not because the hoses don't want to attach, but because of the plastic guards that cover the male ends of the hydraulic couplers. They're frozen on there, so the plastic, I tore one apart, so I went to get a torch to warm them up a little bit so I could pull them off. They came off with ease once they became somewhat pliable. So I got those disconnected, got the hoses all hooked up correctly, including the drainage from the excess fluid of the hydraulics back to the reservoir. Now I go ahead and I'm going to go around and check my alignment, and then try to get my so this is a problem. I'm doing this in the wrong order. I'm actually trying to hook up the rear of the subframe assembly to the drawbar. And so two problems. I'm looking at this and just trying to figure out, why isn't this drawbar going all the way in the way it's supposed to be? And each time I shove it in, I'm jamming it into the right location, but I can't get the pin to go in to secure it. And at some point in time, I must have taken this drawbar out and turned it around, because once I end up finally turning it around, after doing this several times, I'm locking it in, I'm shoving it so far forward that I can't get it to break loose, so I have to keep lifting and dropping the subframe using the hydraulics. Eventually I go ahead and I figure out, okay, let me try and turn the drawbar around, reverse it 180 degrees, and then it locks in all the way. I can get the securing pin in place. So that worked out pretty darn well. Once I finally turned it around, I said, geez, I don't even remember ever doing it. But this is in the wrong order. I should have attached the drive shaft that attaches to the mid-mount PTO. And now I'm going to go ahead and look and say, oh, dang, I forgot to do it. And I could probably hook it up, but it's so cold and my hands can barely fit into that location. I decided to pull the drawbar back out, drop down the subframe. Then I could easily reach in there and hook up the mid-mount PTO shaft to the mid-mount PTO. So now that that's hooked up, I'm going to go ahead and raise it up. I've got the drawbar in the right position now. The pins all line up, and I get that locked up. So that works out great, really straightforward. Don't hook up the electronics yet until you've got the pins holding that in. I'm lubricating the holes now and lubricating the pins so that they slide in easily and don't rust up too much. Raising it up, lift the front wheels of the tractor off the ground. Those big pins fit in real smoothly. Now I'm going to get the mid-mount pins lubricated and get those shoved in as well. I have to drop the pressure off so the front wheels are now on the ground and the pins fit in, and the securing pins that secure the pins in place also lock in as well. So that all worked out great at this point. We've got it all hooked up. I'm just helping Thea on her side as well get that secured. So now the stationary stand, I flip that up and we're all set to go. So I did test it out and it worked fine. Well, we did get the snowblower and the subframe mounted onto Optimus Maximus here. Took a little bit longer than we had hoped to take doing it. It really could have gone smoother if I had done things in the proper order. So the first thing that I did not get straight was get my alignment, getting this perfectly aligned so that I could get it over here. I did remove the storage stand. I had it in the upright position, and I placed a floor jack down here on the floor in front of the wheels, and that worked out well. So I was able to lower it so that the storage stand was in the storage position. So in other words, it wasn't supporting the subframe from the ground. And that way, as I drove over the subframe, the back of the subframe, which hooks into the drawbar, would not smash into the mid-mount PTO. So getting it in a nice alignment is most important. I had to futz around a little bit to get in the right alignment. And with the jack, I had to twist that a little bit so I could get it far enough forward. I had a couple of cameras on this. I don't know that they're going to turn out very well. And it did take me a while to do everything. So And the other thing I did do, I must have taken the drawbar off. I don't recall doing this. Taking the drawbar out from the slot, because when I tried to get it all the way in to secure the back of the subframe, I couldn't get it to go far enough. I felt there was only like 3/4 of an inch able to support the back of the subframe down there. So I actually turned the drawbar around and it fit in there perfectly. So I must have taken it off at some point in time. I don't remember doing that. But before hooking up sliding the drawbar back into the back of the subframe, I hooked that all up, and then it dawned on me, geez, it's much easier to hook up the PTO shaft to the mid-mount PTO drive on the tractor while the subframe is down on the ground. So I disconnected the drawbar after figuring it out, so laid the subframe back down on the ground, then got underneath it, lifted up the PTO shaft and slid it onto the mid-mount PTO shaft, the male and female parts, hooked them together, made sure that the locking ring was there. Then I went ahead and raised up the back of the subframe so I could push the drawbar back into it and put the locking pin in there. Once that was done, then it got real easy. I went ahead and lifted up the front of the tractor by pushing down on the subframe and snow blower, and that raised it up so we could get these large pins in, and they're securing pins, secondary stationary pins. I did put some WD-40 in each one of the slots and on the pins to make it easier. Then once we got them there, I had to drop it down a little bit to make it easier to get these mid-mount pins in. So they got in on each side as well. So then after having that all in, I lifted up the stand again, and then took my my connection here for my electronics and hooked that up. So that was just before the very end of it, hooking up the electronics. I did have one other challenge, and that was getting the caps off of the hydraulics. It's so cold that there was no flexibility. They were locked onto the male end of these hydraulic lines here. So I couldn't get those out. The female parts came, the male parts that came out of the female coupler came out easily, but the female caps that went over the male hydraulic components, I had to actually heat them up with a torch to get them somewhat flexible so I could get those off. I actually tore one apart. So that worked out okay. And then I put the storage stand in the storage position so that it isn't hanging down anymore. So that's it. The only things that I would say that are different than Mesnick's instructions is I don't hook up this electronic because there's so much tension on it when this frame is still down. So Mesnick's recommends doing it right after hooking up the hydraulics. I think you do it after you've got the subframe up. The other thing is I wouldn't want to have the stand down, the stand on the subframe that's built into the subframe down, and try to drive over it, because the height of the mid-mount PTO sticks down too close to the ground, and that would smash into the back of the subframe. But otherwise, it all worked out well. I don't know if this is going to be helpful to anyone. I just wanted to record this to make it a little bit easier for people. Oh, the only other thing is, and I think I mentioned this one. So when you're operating the chute up here and you want it to go to the right and to the left is real easy. Making it go to the left is just push it this way. Pushing it this way like you're going to go ahead and dump your bucket. That won't work. You have to go all the way into detent in order to get the chute to turn this way. And then again, you hit this small button here to switch between, so that's a diverter that switches between this hydraulic motor and this hydraulic cylinder. So that's it. I hope this is somewhat helpful. Let me know in the comments. I'm sorry this is so long, and I did such a poor job recording this. But I tried. Next year I'll try again. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment or any questions. I hope people that do buy this unit enjoy it as much as I do. This has worked out fantastic for us. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe and take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.